You're listening to the Seen and Solved podcast brought to you by Hubbard-Hall. Better results, less chemistry.
So welcome to this edition of Seen and Solved. I'm your host, Tim Pennington, and today I'm joined by wastewater treatment expert Robin Deal, who is the product manager for AquaPure at Hubbard-Hall. Robin, how are you?
I'm doing good, Tim. How are you doing today?
Doing wonderful. I'm currently working on an article right now about wastewater treatment expansion, and that's something I wanted to ask you about, kind of getting into when shops should be looking at expansion, how to go about it, and what are some of the items that they should take into consideration. And really the article I'm happen to be working on currently is that they're adding another line, right? They're adding another line. And I think one thing they realized was that their current system just wasn't really cutting it. They wanted to add a line. So they actually did the right thing, took a step back and said, let's fix our infrastructure first, get our wastewater treatment system going, get it ready for today, tomorrow, and 10 years. That's exactly how they did it. And I know you preach that a lot, right?
Absolutely. So it's interesting. I was traveling last week, and every customer I went to is either in the process of upgrading or planning upgrades for their wastewater system. So one customer, like you said, they're expanding. They're adding a third plating line, and their wastewater system's 20 years old. Their clarifier can't handle the increase of solids that the third plating line is going to swing their way. They want to include things like remote monitoring capabilities with their PLCs. And so they literally built another extension to their plant to connect the new plating line to the wastewater system. And it's very exciting for me to walk in and see things like this, to see customers and our industry owning that they're growing and that they need to expand not just their plating and manufacturing capabilities, but their wastewater systems as well.
So what are some telltale signs that you think the shop should be looking out for that should tell them that they should start looking at planning for expansion? What are some things that may pop up that would give them an idea that they should be looking at this?
The number one sign that I've seen several times in the past 2 years is their wastewater systems flood. They get more water in than the tanks can handle, than the flow can handle, and so everything just floods. And when that happens, you basically have a spill. You run the possibility of untreated wastewater going outside and getting into the ground, of escaping the confines and becoming safety hazards for your workers, depending on pH levels and the contaminants that are in there, such as cyanide platers. If you had a cyanide spill, that's pretty bad. So that's like the number one thing that I see people saying is, oh, we have to slow our system down. We have to slow our rinses down because our system cannot accommodate the flow that we need.
The shop that I'm doing a story on, I think they were at 20 gallons or something. Or was it 20 gallons? And the one they're putting in could go up to 80, but they're setting it at 40, right? So they've got all this expansion, and I think it's a very smart move, wouldn't you say? And I guess that would be my question, is that what should they be taking into consideration? And I guess further expansion, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Additional expansion. We hear a lot now about ESG goals, right? Your environmental, societal, and health goals, governance goals. A lot of companies are building these and looking at ISO 14000 certifications, which is continuous environmental impact improvement. So when we look at why you expand your wastewater system, you need to look at not just growth of your production, but what are your goals for your wastewater system? Do you want to recycle your water? Do you want to discharge everything? Do you want to do a split? Part of it go discharge, part of it come back into the plant for reuse on non-critical applications. Do you want sludge reduction? Do you want remote monitoring capabilities? There's so many things that a wastewater system can do now that when we say a company is going to add another plating line or another paint line, what do they want to do with the water that they're going to generate from that process? Right. And how we're going to spend that water.
That's really going to determine their production levels, right? I mean, it's working its way back. Working your way back from that is what can we handle determines how much production, how much throughput we can have at a facility, correct?
Correct. And the flip side of that is, say you do expand, you do double your production, but you don't expand your wastewater system. Now you're running into quality issues because your rinses are stagnating because they can't flow enough to remove the contaminants. So we see a lot of facilities now use TDS monitoring in their rinses so that when the rinses hit a certain dissolved solid level, it kicks it to wastewater and the rinse refills. That's critical, I think. I think that's an impressive improvement over the triple counterflow rinses that just 5 years ago was the way to go for most people.
There's sometimes and oftentimes a lot of lead time to get these facilities or get these upgrades. And sometimes if they want to move that, the wastewater treatment plant maybe to a different part of the building or outside the building or something like that, it takes quite a while to get all of this done. I know like I said, the project I'm talking about took about a year. So it's never too soon, I guess, to start looking at those and running numbers, right? Of seeing what they're going to need and what they're doing now, how are they doing it, and then what they're going to need.
Calculate at least an 18-month lead time for a brand new build. If you're going to move your system from one area to a secondary area, you might have to look at permit renewals. You might have to get your city, your permit holder involved to approve those moves. In some cases, even just approving equipment upgrades, it becomes necessary to get them involved. Some cities even go as far as saying, if you're going to change the chemistry you use to treat your wastewater, we need to know about it. So the sooner you can start looking at this project, because that's what it is, as a project, and put someone in charge of it who can handle it, the better that is.
Yeah, and sometimes when you're looking at moving, it allows you to build one while you're keeping your existing system running, and then just make the switch, which is much seamless, and it keeps your production going with that. And like I said, the place I was at, it was right in the middle of the facility, prime real estate, and they realized that area could have been used better for a line, and so they're moving it, which really working out well for them to move it to another area to get it out of the main part of the floor, which is a good move sometimes. Right?
Absolutely, it's a good move. We even see, last year I was working on an account that had a facility that was damaged by a natural disaster. And they were limping along, but they recognized that they needed to build a new facility for their safety of their workers. So this first facility that was damaged, they shut parts of it down and they built a brand new facility in another location, and they piecemeal transferred everything over so that they can continue producing parts for their customers.
Yeah, I was going to say the takeaway from all of this is, always look at what your system's handling and what you're going to be needing in the future, and then give you some more room on top of that, right? I mean, you don't have to keep going through this, but like I said, looking at your production right now, what you expect it to be the next couple of years, and that's really going to tell you whether you need to upgrade the system, expand it, and get it up to run for the next 20, 30, 40 years sometimes.
Absolutely. And always look at the technologies, right? Talk to your permit holders and say, in 5 years, when my permit comes up for renewal, are you going to impose BOD limits, biological oxygen demand limits? If that's going to happen, then maybe you need to look at biological wastewater treatment over just physical chemical. Or if there's going to be a specific area of concern, we all see what's happening with chromium right now. Maybe look at ways that we can remove that through ion exchange or RO treatment, things like that.
Definitely something they should keep an eye on, and actually they could reach out to you at Hubbard-Hall, and I'm sure you would help walk them through all of that with them. So again, thank you for giving out great information. I hope everybody takes that to heart and starts planning for tomorrow. They definitely should. Definitely
plan for the future and plan for growth.
Right. Thanks, Robin. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim.
The Scene and South podcast is brought to you by Hubbard-Hall. For more podcasts, visit hubbardhall.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to like and subscribe, rate and review, and join us on social media. Produced by Awcast.